Skyrim has a lot of magic in it. Shouts, Alteration, Galvanization, Restoration, Approximation, Conjuration, Destruction, Illusion, and more. Most of these are designed to be offensive, to do direct damage to an enemy, but there's one school of magic that is used almost exclusively for healing and preserving life. Can you beat Skyrim with only restoration spells? I started Skyrim, wasn't at the 35th annual Tamriel Wagon Gymnastics competition, picked an Imperial as my race because they're the only race that starts with a 25 in restoration. Named myself something that a certain someone in a certain mouse movie Discord refuses to say to me, and entered Helgen Keep. There are a few good things that happen right off the bat. First, you always start with healing, a restoration spell. That was actually the only good thing. I very briefly let a few soldiers use my body as a sword punching bag, picked locks, ignored buckets because what kind of weird nasally freak would collect buckets, and escaped into Skyrim from within Skyrim itself. The issue now becomes, how the hell do you deal damage to anything with a restoration spell? In the base game, you don't, not really. If you don't have any of the DLCs installed, this run becomes stupid difficult. The best you'll be able to do is get restoration up to level 90 and somehow acquire the Bane of the Undead spell, which sets Undead up to level 44 on fire and makes them flee for 30 seconds. But not everything you face is undead. In fact, nothing you face is even alive because this is a fucking video game. Nice, thanks. As luck would have it, there is a single restoration spell in Skyrim that can damage living and unliving target persons. That can damage both living and unliving targets, without having to resort to calling them mean names. Poison Rune, an adept level spell that does 3 points of poison damage over the course of 30 seconds. If your IQ is on par with a number of drawing sticks in a box of crayons, you may be thinking that it doesn't count because it's poison damage, to which I say, go fuck yourself. The game calls it a restoration spell, so it's a restoration spell. As I haven't played Elmo's Number Journey yet, the problems are seemingly infinite. The most important one, in the only time zone that matters, is that it requires restoration at 50 to be able to use it. In the last few explanatory paragraphs, I've likely activated the Mage Stone to make magic skills level up quicker, discovered Bleak Falls Barrow, and begun taking punishment from the bandits. I did that for a while, but it was too slow. Like the great Billy Mays once said, there's gotta be a better way. And there is. Tucked away in desolation lies a location you've probably never heard of. Once I say the name, even the most fanatical Skyrim fans will be asking themselves, what the fuck is he talking about? Hi Hrothgar. That's what us liars refer to as a joke. I couldn't take the front doors into the temple. The old men have locked themselves away while they examine each other's backs for moles and count wrinkles. Getting over the temple and into the courtyard is as simple as bending your ankles until you hear something snap, and running up the mountain with your bare feet that are effectively pool noodles wearing boots. Abscond from the mountain climbing adventure and the fun can begin. The Wall of Cold is what we're after, as it can be used to quickly level up restoration. Because there are no enemies here, besides the old men in their robes watching me from the shadows, you can take damage from the cold, heal yourself until you run out of magic, wait an hour for it to come back, and do it again indefinitely. Also, I have clothing that makes magic regenerate 50% faster. I was here for a while, but not as long as I originally thought I would be. My restoration was somewhere around 27 when I arrived, and after 30 minutes of doing what I just described, it was up to 45. I'd taken the relevant perks that I could as I leveled up. I'd tell you what they were, but to be honest, I don't think you deserve to know. You haven't earned it. After those 30 minutes were up, I ascended down the mountain. I totally didn't fuck up the beginning of that Bioshock Infinite video and say the wrong word as a joke. Got licked by a bunch of friendly puppies, stole more cabbage than I realistically should have been able to fit into wherever it was stuffed, arrived at Whiterun, sold the armor and weapons I didn't need, and spoke to the Jarl about a giant lizard. I did this because as I was recovering from and immediately giving myself frostbite atop the mountain, I remembered that I had to get to a certain point in the story before I could travel to Dragonreach Island and begin the DLC. Having restoration at 50 before that wouldn't really help me out all that much. If you're wrapped in a chain and dropped into an empty bathtub to drown, a snorkel won't save you. Before setting out, I used the vegetables the local townsfolk grew for me despite not even knowing I existed to create several bowls of vegetable soup. You never know when you might need it. I'd also made sure to get a more effective healing spell from Farfield. Pretend what I said before didn't happen. Watching the footage back without remembering everything and making inferences about my reasons for doing things sometimes leads to me lying. Not that I would ever lie to you. My first attempt in using the superior healing spell to heal myself resulted in my demise, as one would expect because I didn't believe I could survive. Like that ghoul fridge kid from Fallout 4. He didn't live because Bethesda is shit, he survived because he knew that he could. He lived because Todd Howard believed in him, and Todd Howard believes in you too. I kept grinding away until I got restoration up to 50. It only took like 10 minutes. It goes without saying that I'd been playing on Adept. Not only was it the level of the spell I was after, it made the cold do more damage in a shorter amount of time so I could heal while standing in it without my health going up too quickly or dying in the process. But I backhanded that bitch back down to Novice where it belonged and entered Bleakfall's Barrow to retrieve the Dragonstone. Ripley's Believe It or Don't tells us that it's not too difficult to get through this temple without attacking anything. Consider it a trial run for what's to come. With my magic as high as it is, my dual-wielding glowing hands, and the difficulty setting, enemies are more like bumblebees swarming an elephant than any sort of a threat to me. Getting the golden claw from Orville Not So Swift isn't difficult either. He can be cut down without attacking any creatures, and the feral ratatouilles destroy him when given the opportunity. Traps don't count, and can be used to turn anything that you can think of into Swiss cheese. The Draugr Overlord requires some baiting though. That could be sexual. There's another trap he must be led to. Firebag got his ass a bit, but the swing set swords finished him off. I got the Dragonstone, returned to Far Cry, and witnessed the news of a dragon attack. Luckily for them, I was there to do nothing about it. That's not entirely true. I went out to the farm to collect more cabbages grown in my honor when someone approached me, which was weird since they were standing still and I was the one walking. Out of curiosity, I told him I had cabbages to sell, thinking to trick the idiot because his mouth bothered me. He stole my fucking cabbages. Suffice it to say, I knew my only option was to kill him, and who I can only assume was his wife. I liked watching her blood-soaked body seize on the ground next to my cabbage cribs. I reloaded a save to ensure that didn't count, went to the watchtower, saved the day by doing my best vegetable impression. Proventus said there was no proof I was the Dragonborn. Obviously he had to pay for that. I got stabbed a bunch and flopped on the ground, ignored the donkey girl, and answered the summons of the Greybeards. I had to yell at Arnold to continue the quest. He took some damage from it, I think. My eyes aren't as good as they used to be. Probably shouldn't have made fun of blind people in my last video. They learned me new words good. I listened speak their words and ran fast at gate. Before tracking down the horn of Harold Hornholder, I rode to Winterhold, failed Farrell's test because I don't know how to spell, bought a book from Farthington, and got inside the College of Winterhold. The idea being that I could either find someone to pay to raise my restoration skill, or maybe I could get a useful spell from someone inside. After this guy holding nothing told me to piss off, I pretty much gave up on that idea. Rode to Dawnstar and made my way towards Ustengrav. Ustengrav is easier than my sister. Keep your hands in front of your face, pretend you aren't being hit, and you can get through this ordeal without any problems. That's probably something I should not have said. There isn't any kind of boss at the end of this dungeon, besides trying to read Delphine's handwriting. With the horn in my possession, I returned to High Hrothgar to return it. Then I remembered that I didn't actually have it, and went to Delphine's inner basement to get it back. But then the cultists attacked. I did my part to stop the borderline terrorist attack by basically standing in place and putting a bunch of band-aids on my arm. I gave back the golden claw, rented a room. Delphine weaseled the horn out of her hidden crevice. I stole her stuff because I can. What's hers is mine, what's mine is mine. It's The Walking Dead Season 8, subtitled All Out War when you cross that line. With the cultist orders having been read by yours truly, I rode a cart to Windhelm, swam to a boat, and arrived in Solstheim. The man I was after was in the southeast of the island, which is why I marked southwest on my map and headed there. I absolutely did not read the word wrong. My level of reading comprehension is so far below your own that I blew past negative infinity and lapped your bitch ass. See you at the finish line, loser. Shortly after coming centimeters away from dying at the hands of sentient chocolate milk mix, I realized that I went west when I should have gone east, and found a city carved out of giant mushrooms that are in no way phallic. This Tylenol Febreze guy is the guy who sometimes sells the poison rune spell I was after, but he wouldn't open his shop to me. His science fair experiment was supposed to come to life and wreak havoc all over the mushroom, yet for some reason it wouldn't happen. So I searched his house for clues, dropped valuable materials down the float hole, tried to throw a basket backwards over my head into the hole, did it, tripped into the hole, and went back outside to discover that he was the reason for the season. He produced a fine powder from somewhere and wished on a falling star for it to come to life. That's why it's a sort of white color and clumpy. It occurred to me rather quickly that I had no means of killing this thing. I couldn't blow it into the water with my mouth because the very act could damage it. There was only one way to proceed. I would need an inanimate object worth next to nothing. I needed a donkey. Having a companion kill it would obviously not count, but there is a trick that can be used to get around this little issue. Take Lydia to the scene of the crime that has yet to be committed, dismiss her from your service, and she's no longer a companion. She's just a normal essential NPC. Essential being a label the game uses for NPCs that can't die. As she takes her leave, she engages in combat with the ash monster. I didn't make it happen. I didn't make those cars hit each other. I just covered the intersection with ice to ensure something funny would happen after I left. Lydia is about as terrible as I expected. She could only take a few bonks before falling. For a while, I just waited until she got back up, which was harder than I would have thought because of how potent the Ash's dust spray attack was. Eventually it hit me that I could just use the Healing Hand spell to keep Lydia in the fight for longer periods of time. And after the longest 7 minutes in the history of minutes, Lydia defeated the beast. Hrothgar thanked me, and I bought the Poison Rune spell for 885 gold. Before I even used it once, I snagged the Adept Restoration perk to make Adept level spells cost half as much magic. It still used almost half of my magic, but it didn't matter. I could do damage. And what better way to test its usefulness than by fighting a dragon? Poison Rune does 3 damage per second for 30 seconds. That 3 damage is not a lot, it's barely more than a fork, but the fact that it lasts for 30 seconds is what makes it useful. 30 seconds is longer than you think. Ask anyone who's ever been on fire. The problem though, especially with dragons, is that they must pass over it. They have to step on the rune for it to poison them. Sometimes the dragon will land and walk towards you, sometimes it'll just stay in place and spray fire at you. The dragon fought during the Blade in the Dark quest, this one, has a minimum health of 905, which means you're gonna have to poison it at least 10 times to kill it. Of course, in practice, that's a lie, as Delphine is there to attack it with you. With the dragon slain and access to Delphine's secret chambers granted, I returned to High Hrothgar for the ceremony of being breathed on by old men. I almost forgot to strip myself naked. I managed to do it just before the celebration concluded, and I continued the main questline with Delphine. Her plan was that I sneak into the Thalmor embassy. On my way to the bar, I spent $1,400 on a shirt that makes restoration spells cost 12% less while making magic regenerate 50% faster. I wasn't sure about the math, if it checked out or not, if the benefits of this shirt outweighed the benefits of the one I replaced that restored magic 75% faster. 75 is more than 50, but 50 plus 12 is also less than 75. However, because 50 is 2/3 of 75, and you can never have more than 100% of anything, you add 2/3 of 100, which is 66 to the 12 to get you to 78, proving with the power of mathematics that my new armor is better. I gave Melbourne my armor, some soup, a few lockpicks, and rode the carriage to the embassy. Drunk guy caused a scene, I robbed those elf bitches of their vegetables, and got to work poisoning God's little mistakes. The issue with the Thalmor is that they like magic. Their lightning bolts hurt my magic's feelings and make it collapse on itself. The upside is that they're weak enough that 2 poison runes can kill them, and multiple can be damaged with 1 rune. Unless of course you're this one particular wizard who refuses to abide by my make-believe rules. All in all, the poison rune isn't the worst tool I've used to massacre the Thalmor. With my little book of secrets, I talked to Delphine about Esbern, rode to Riften from a farm because I wasn't walking all the way out there, and went down into the Ratway. Skewer and Dandruff both got poisoned by my ground magic. A bucket took a little trip. The number of bear traps I activated for sexual reasons turned my ankles into a fine powder. Some Thalmor cheated, and Minecraft TP commanded their way into the Ratway. Chef Boyardee got poisoned, then lit on fire in the greatest tag team assault in Skyrim Restoration spell-only playthrough history, and I met Bernie back at Riverwood. He made some pseudo-intellectual comments about shit never being lost, just forgotten, which makes sense but is stupid. The Chuck E. Cheese I got banned from isn't lost, I just forgot where it is because I've been banned from so many of them it's hard to keep track. I wasn't even doing anything wrong. All I want is a ball from the ball pit of every Chuck E. Cheese location in the world. Why is that such a fucking problem for some people? Alduin's wall is in the mine shaft of Karthspire. I decided to be obtuse and sneak in the back entrance that's hidden atop the mountain. In my attempts to go around the mountain climbing adventure, I unintentionally arrived at the actual entrance, did a sweet backflip as I embraced death, entered the entrance, guarding the entryway to the main entree of this location. Cut my hand open, but that's okay because it's the same hand that heals me, and waited for the old man to read the wall. I had to face my fears of ridding the windy mountain of its frozen icy protectors. But I couldn't do that without being harassed by this Scientology dragon. No matter what I did, no matter how far I ran, it would not leave me alone. Sometime later, I returned to anger and used my powers of charisma and convinced him to lend me a hand. I let myself get abused by the wind briefly, got bored, went up the hill, and spoke to the dragon. Once again, the challenge sorta falls apart as you cannot continue unless you expel heat from your nostrils at the dragon, which damages him. It's pretty gross actually. I'm like 90% nasal, so there's probably something in there besides fire. I spoke at length with the beast. By the time he finally shut up, the sun had risen over the sky. My objective was hell, obtaining and the Elder Scroll, to be specific. I didn't waste time talking to the green freak in the winter wonderland. I pressed onward, deep into the heart of winter, beyond the land of always walrus, until I found the ice house, with Sagittarius deep in its frozen hole. Because the Dwemer are stupid and nothing can be simple, these spiders cannot be damaged by my poison. Like the man in black from Lost, they were corrupted by darkness before I found them. Todd Howard's words penetrated their scrap metal and rusted them from the inside out. They are unfortunately condemned to suffer for eternity. I can't kill them to end their suffering. I thought my magical prowess would save me from the bladed spanking machine. It did not. I taunted a spider, traversed this section in the usual way. I need to speak long enough to show the entire fall that should do it. And restoration got up to 60, allowing magic to now regenerate 50% faster. The Falmer did 4 more damage to me than I would have thought. For the first time, I didn't collect any of the ridiculous armor either of the 2 Neanderthals dropped above the door to Blackreach. Ran through this neat looking area without doing much of anything. Solved the puzzle from memory. That was a lie, I 100% had to look it up again. Retrieved the Elder Scroll. I got the Rubik's Cube too, but forgot to return it. And read the Elder Scroll at the time slice. As events were unfolding in the past and right now, I got curious about how much of the world is rendered. So I did a little sneaky and had a look for myself. I learned the new word of power to control the very fabric of a dragon. Cotton, I think. Alduin arrived, and the fight began. And, unfortunately, OBS decided to fuck me in one of the worst times possible. Remember that problem I mentioned in my Euclid C-Finder video? It happened again during this fight. The issue is that OBS only records a few frames over an extended period of time, like several minutes. The audio was there, but the video was not. And there's nothing I can really do about it. All I can really do is speed up the entire fight to give you a general idea of how it went. In short, it took a bit of effort, but was surprisingly doable. Alduin has a lot of health, and Parthenax will only do so much before he's down and out for the remainder of the fight. After Alduin takes a certain amount of damage, most of which came from using Dragon Rend and laying down a poison rune right before he lands, he stays on the ground, rendering Dragon Rend unnecessary. Then you just place a rune near him, run away to lure him towards it, and eventually he'll take enough damage to die. Shortly after arriving in Whiterun to convince the Jarl to let me trap a dragon in his bedroom, OBS got its shit together and started working again. I failed to convince him, talked to the Greybeards about having a dinner party in Alduin's honor, watched in horror as death sprinted towards me, was caught by it, attempted to kill it but death doesn't apply to death, and spoke to Jarl Ulfric Stormcloak about joining the Stormcloaks. Barehead didn't take me at my word and required that I mate with an icicle to prove my worth. Not a problem. The island was farther away than I thought, and bandits were holed up in a nearby ship. The chief took a lot more damage than I expected. I found the island and got frozen fucked by the ice bubble. That thing hits really hard, but it went all in on offense, and everyone knows that ice's natural weakness is to poison. With my task performed, I took the oath and joined the ranks of the Stormcloaks. In an amazing twist, I wasn't immediately made king of the Stormcloaks. If this was Fallout 4, I'd already be the second in command, after doing that one little thing 9 out of 10 doctors don't want you to know about. Gilmore Girl's job for me was to take part in an assault on a location where a crown might be. And again, OBS got fucky. This was recorded on the morning of December 23rd, and I would be out of town from the 24th through the 27th. so I didn't have time to replay multiple portions of the game and write parts of a new script based on what happened. I'm sorry that this is becoming more of a frequent problem, but for this video all I can do is try to make the best out of what usable footage I've got. Retrieving the skull itself was mostly a cakewalk, but the Draugr Scourge is one of the toughest foes I've faced so far, second only to Alduin. I tried many a time to poison him with my runescape, but he would not succumb to it. Eventually, around the time his health was halfway depleted, I tried something new, reviving someone who can't die to force them to fight for me. Battlebeard dispatched of the Scourge in an impressive fashion. I got the crown, ignored the word of power on the bendy wall because it was worthless to me, so I didn't even bother seeing what it was, returned the crown, and went to deliver a message to the Jarl of Whiterun. I think I interrupted something because the Jarl would not take his eyes off Irilith. Even when I spoke to him, his eyes were fixed on that blue-skinned whore. Balgruuf denied Ulfric's request, and the time had come for the second battle of Hoover Dam. This fucking guy interrupted the Jarl himself to tell me that he was the least important person in here. I met with Galmor outside Whiterun, and with a dozen soldiers, and I pushed the limits of computer-generated graphics gameplay to the limit by assaulting the city by myself. With a high enough amount of magic and the right attire, Poison Rune can become pretty powerful. Damage from normal foes becomes irrelevant when you can heal yourself damn near constantly. Magic regenerates 50% faster than normal, so you can lay down poison runes pretty frequently, and they can damage multiple enemies at once if they're close enough to each other. The worst part of this method of attack is the same inconvenience that all TV show murderers face, waiting for the poison to kill your victim. Inside the castle, I finally had the chance to almost end Jarl Balgruuf. This was the closest I've come to having the opportunity to attack him as part of a quest. He surrendered, Stormcloaks took over, and I reported to Ulfric for my next task. Then, as expected, the problem. For reasons I have yet to figure out, I could not talk to him to advance the Civil War quest. I could ask him how it's going, but no option would give me a new objective. The only option that would advance anything is related to the Peace Council, but seeing as I'd used up all other options, that's all I could do. So I met with General Tullius, returned to the Greybeards, sat through the council, sided with the Stormcloaks at every conceivable opportunity, was told the Call Dragon Shout from Delphine's wrinkled lover, and went to Dragon's Reach to summon me a dragon. As I approached the bench, I noticed that my waypoint was back outside. I found Jarl Balgruuf swimming in the water. Then I waited for him to head back inside as he requested. The second he entered Dragon's Reach, he disappeared from this dimension. There's no other explanation for it. My waypoint was out on the balcony. I waited for hours, but nobody showed up. I called the dragon, he soared over the castle, then flew away. I went back inside to look for the Jarl, but he was nowhere to be found. As expected, this quest had come to a standstill. No progress could be made, and, as I discovered in my Skyrim hands-bound video, you can't get to Skuldafn without doing this quest. So, all that progress with the Civil War questline was for nothing. I reloaded a save to before I sided with the Stormcloaks, summoned them and the Imperials to the Greybeards' second annual tea party, sat through it with my imaginary friend next to me, talked to the Jarl, captured the dragon, and rode to Skuldafn. I ignored everything on my way to the temple because, come on, I'm a pussy, that's what I do. Inside the temple, I discovered a sad. The Draugr inside seemed to have stocked up on G Fuel, the official liquid of gamers who can't consume anything unless it's marketed to them as being made for gamers. Their parents buy it for them, so they might as well be spending Monopoly money. Basically, what I'm implying here is that the poison rune has no effect on any of the Draugr in here. Maybe because of the sacred location they're immune, maybe they're too high a level, maybe the G Fuel thing was right. Either way, I can't attack any of them. What I had never even thought about was the Draugr Overlord hoarding the Diamond Claw for himself. He too was immune. I had two options, find a trap or whip out the wooden plate I saved for emergencies and use it to phase through a wall. I've never used the plate glitch before, and I didn't want this to be the video to need it. At the bottom of this wheelchair-accessible staircase is a pressure plate that triggers an arrow attack. All I had to do was get the Overlord in front of it and trigger the plate. One way or another, a plate would be necessary here. The arrows actually drained his health much faster than I expected. Calamity struck when its health got low. The arrows shoot straight but downward at an angle. When the Overlord gets tired, he goes down on one knee to practice his proposal technique. I said yes, by the way, because he went to Jared. On his knee, the arrows won't hit him. At least I thought that until they did. Once he died, I retrieved the claw, opened the door, attempted to poison Nokrin, but jumped into the portal before I could see if it worked, and arrived in Sovngarde. Sun was a complete pushover. His imposing height doesn't save him from my poison any more than Andre the Giant's wrestling skills saved him from congestive heart failure. He let me into the Hall of Heroes. I spoke to the 3 people who just got their faces painted at the fair down the street, and together we shouted the clouds away. Yeah, that cotton candy might have been laced with something, besides what I put in it. Alduin arrived, and the final battle began. This was, as you probably expected, not very difficult. The 3 heroes did a solid amount of damage, and Alduin is more likely to walk towards you since there's more space for activities. That was a movie reference. I think the gameplay got stuttery again here because why wouldn't it? It's not like you're missing much anyway. The fight took about 3 minutes, the World Eater was slain, I was sent back to the Elder Scroll 5, and I beat Skyrim with only restoration spells. And that's going to do it for this video about whether or not you can beat Skyrim by only using restoration spells. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video, didn't learn anything, or you just hate my fucking voice. Thanks to the Champion tier supporters as well as other channel members for helping make videos like this one possible. Follow me on Twitter at Mitten Squad. My name is Paul of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.